Greeting from Rome, the eternal city. I would have wished to be physically present there, but for the reason I explained, moving from Taiwan, it was not being possible. And even if it will be possible today, with the coronavirus, I don't think that I'll get the permission to be with you. Thank God, digital media allows us not to have this kind of absent present. We are spiritually connected. My contribution to this ARC 2020 is a QR codes of deities, which I believe to be the answer the Taiwanese religious fear is giving to modernity. I will try to explain why I decided to choose this topic by giving a history of what I have observed and commenting on it. As a background to this presentation, I remembered in 2007 attending a conference wherein there was somebody from Hong Kong, and he was commenting that all traditional religions, especially Taoism, have to enculturate. I could not believe what he was saying because in my understanding, enculturation is an exclusive necessity for foreign or imported religions because it is a kind of a compulsory process through which foreign religions, when they are negotiating their insertion in a new environment, have to go through. So I could not believe that religions that have been there for 500, for 1,000, that even were created there, why they needed to be enculturated. But this researcher, in a witty and very persuasive way, he started commenting on how new technologies have made religions to be obsolete, that they were antiquated, and unless they could reshape themselves, they will immediately be outdated and alienated because unable not to fit to the fast-growing technological development. 7 years later, here I have to be very grateful now to Father Franz Joseph Ehlers. He invited me to attend the 7th Roundtable of ARC. That was in Bangkok in 2014. During that meeting, the insistence was to encourage a study on the various forms of communication Asian religions have developed to respond to modern technological development. From then on, I went back to Taiwan with a sense of mission. I wanted to see how could that reflect to the reality of Taiwan. Basically, much of my the question that I had were, how could Taiwan, which has evolved from an agricultural into a full-fledged industrial society, responded to this? Because today, Taiwan, its Media-Tek, it ranks 4th in the world, and digitalization is a trend taken for granted in the island, especially young generations. But at the same time, Taiwan remains also a home for a variety of old traditional religious expressions. So on one side, the guardians of tradition, we find they might be tempted not to react and not to be receptive not to those novelties, but at the same time we might find out that perhaps they are being compelled to accept them. So my question is, where do this technology fit in the Taiwanese religious circles? Are they used as shields protecting the ideals religion stands for as they strive not to enter into modernity, or are they perceived as threats that religion should oppose when they are trying not to survive? So during the 7th, going back with the input of the 7th Roundtable, I came to Taiwan and tried not to see where I could find answers. And here I will present 3 of the projects in which I was more interested in the search for my answers. And the first was by a course that was offered by Professor Lin Fushi. He is a senior researcher at the Academia of Sinica, one of the, well, it is the National Academy, Research Academy of Taiwan. He has been interested in factors counting for successful spread and expansion of some religious groups. And so basically, Lin Fushi, he looks at religion as a consumable, as a product that needs a market. And he has been asking himself, what makes some religions being accepted, find more people than others? And in his own research, he found out that basically technology has something to do. Groups that are acquainted with technology and who can use it in a better way have easy possibilities to have members and also to convince their members join in their group. Then we can also understand why Professor Lin was among the masterminds of a digitalized religious map of Taiwan. So a digitalized religion will make all the religious locations more accessible. His idea was that using something that is similar to Google Map, you can access to every religious place. And he promoted the idea, which became both interdisciplinary, because the project involved moving to those religious places, researchers who could go there, and the people who are staying in this temple, not to give the story behind this. Basically, there is an analogy in this. So when 3 years ago we started working on it, we adapted a Nintendo program, Pokemon. But in this Pokemon, instead of going around looking for Pikachu, you go to look for the location of a religion, and you take a picture and you put it upload it on the web, and with this we have constituted this religious map of Taiwan. Unfortunately, when this idea was being promoted, there were some people who were skeptical, thinking that the government might use this to monitor or to manipulate religious activities, and perhaps their fears were founded. The second project in which I got involved in, I started paying attention to Professor Lin Weiping. She is a professor of anthropology at the National Taiwan University. Unlike Lin Fushi, she was not interested in the technology and the digitalization of religion. She wanted to see the adaptations and the negotiation, how religions were reinventing themselves when they moved from their traditional rural village to urban or industrialized areas. She has a book, Materializing Magic Power, a Chinese popular religion in villages and cities, where she's comparing people who came from two villages, Sanliuwan and Wanyan, and moving to Pado, which is in the New Taipei, a district in New Taipei City. And she realizes that basically those people, they transplanted and they reinvented the village, religious village setting that they had, and improved on it to make it more available and to offer the services that urban people needed. In the meantime, she also realized that media technology has been playing a role. I just caught what she's saying when she's saying internet is the best medium for understanding the young people of Bada and their relationship with the shrine that was built. So she's referring to the pages of Facebook and Yahoo, as well as to the blog that kept track of the activities of the Jimin Shrine, and where the youth, they freely exchange any kind of information that regarded their shrine. She also alludes to the consultation that the spirit medium of the temple is making on the internet to ensure that, I quote, the divination is better adapted to the complexity of modern society. The third area of my interest in looking for these answers came as a natural consequence of the broadened horizon. So I wanted to see how other scholars were interpreting similar situations as those that I was looking at considering here in Taiwan. And there I came across authors like Brenda Brasher, Lauren Dowdson, and Douglas Cowan, Heidi Campbell, and I realized that those people, they have many things to help me interpret the Taiwanese religious space. So basically, I wish the little contribution that I'm giving here could be a kind of an addition to the monumental work that they are doing in trying to interpret religion in cyberspace. So I'll come now to the point where cyberspace has been also a reality in the religion of Taiwan. And so speaking of the ways religious communities handle new technology, we have Campbell, who notes that there is a tendency to negotiate and reconstruct technology to serve their purposes while simultaneously working to prevent the corruption of their members. And so one illustration for this kind of negotiation in Taiwan, as I will show, is actually the areas of ancestor religion. We see in Taiwan there was an increasing emergency of websites offering online religious services. And the first of the kind were created in 1999. And then they were being publicized as potential remedies designed for people who find it difficult to maintain their tradition in today's fast, busy, industrialized and commercialized society. They were being seen, these electronic temples were being seen as supplying the limits of traditional temples. We have sites like Bai Bai Compt or Jingong. They offer all kinds of services available in a traditional temple. The services depend on the time rituals are being celebrated and the festivities that are going on. You have, for instance, blessing and special protection, anti-sui, given during the Chinese New Year. You have the tomb sweeping and floral services offered during the Qimingjie. We also have a range of blessings and petitions that seekers usually go to temple to look for instance, to pass an exam, to search for a life partner, to pray for health, to look for good luck for business. So all those things can be availed online. The only one difference is that you are away from the walls and the smells of the temple. So those who are consuming those services, they found that these temples are effective substitute of traditional temples for as long as they cater for the religious needs. Here, I'd like to mention that the emergence of this temple have been lauded. As we see, the media are recording them as having solved the problem. They are being presented as a mitigated solution to the tension that existed between the progress brought by technological boom and the moral demands not to safekeep tradition. Ancestor veneration, tomb sweeping days are two examples. Because of Confucian heritage, the Chinese cultural and religious tradition, the people, individual and family, are required to find concrete ways of expressing their filial piety. But in a traditional setting, the actual one, the observance of the filial piety has become difficult. So those who wanted to safeguard another tradition, they felt those who wanted to safeguard the tradition, they felt that they find it very difficult. So in publicizing these new religions, we find people saying that with the changes that happen in the mentality of the people, the disappearance of family altars in the families, the absence of ancestral veneration has become a difficult thing to do. But now with electronic services, no matter how far one is, veneration is still possible. We can commemorate our ancestors through the internet. at every festival, at the rising of every new moon, at any time, we can express our sincere heart and felt respect for our ancestors. So thanks to e-technology, ancestor veneration will always be an available option. That's the kind of appreciation that has been given to this. Even in March 2007, a Christian daily journal was loading the marvels of e-religious services. They refer to ancestor veneration and tomb sweeping, and they say there is no need not to fly back home or to waste time in heavy traffic to get to the resting place of a deceased parent clean, or to adorn it with new flowers. All those kind of preoccupation, they can be solved at a distance with few paid clicks. Internet has thought and provided for solutions and alternative for all those problems. However, we find that this phenomenon need a different kind of interpretation, a different frame of interpretation. Despite their proliferation, e-religious services did not ignite much debate and polemics as those scholars in the West have been addressing. There was no question, for instance, on whether the rituals rendered were virtual or real. The issue actually is less important to the mental framework of Chinese religion, because the practitioners, they are not thinking in terms of real or virtual. They are thinking instead in terms of effectiveness. What is important to ensure is that the rituals have worked. They have produced the expected result. In Chinese, they will say, it is not zhen zhen de xu jie de, but it is lin bu lin. But by saying this, it doesn't mean that e-services do not have any problem at all. In traditional temple, the online service provides all the steps not to be followed to perform a ritual. For instance, starting from filling one's identity and address, the intended service or prayer, the presentation of offerings desired. There are also the divinatory blocks cast to get either a divine response or to ensure that the ritual have been effective. So the online service provider also set a mechanism of verification and validation of the effectiveness of the ritual performed. In a case of a memorial ceremony for ancestors, the practitioner casts the divination blocks online and asks the ancestor to say whether they are pleased or not. And a shimbui is a sign that they are pleased with the treatment. Nonetheless, there are also some hermeneutical problems related not to these services. And one of it is the proliferation the emergence of proliferation of these religious services. They've been asking a problem of tracing back the filiation of the temples. I should say that the filiation of a temple was done through the sharing of ashes, which does not exist in e-temple, the created e-temples. So how does one establish the hierarchy of the temples providing those services? How and from where do they claim their power? Some conservative leaders, they've been thinking that actually the e-temples, they are virtual centers providing virtual services. And the comments of this kind are from real temple managers and clerics who noticed that the leading figure of e-temples often happen to be the internet server, collecting fees and keeping up the web page. In fact, an e-temple service requires a different kind of expertise than that of a common cleric. They need more a computer expert than a certified cleric. Supposedly, a temple should be a certified location where believers come to encounter their deities. In some cases involving irreligious services, the process of certification is not always possible. So coming back now to why I call this a QR coding, QR coding as a response now to the Taiwanese problem. The first time that I came across the phenomenon of a QR coding deities was during a visit to Wumiao. It's a temple in Yanshui in Tainan. In preparation of the festivity of the temple deity, the organizing committee had prepared a kit containing a small token of the deity and a leaflet on which appeared a QR code. While I was taking interest in the small token, I was reminded that the leaflet was more important, and it had a QR code of the application of the deity of the temple. In scanning it, one was connecting to the temple in real time. The application enabled to tour around the temple, to see the different deities with one click, and one could have the entire temple in the pocket. The application bore the portrayal of the deity who in fact directed the user to his own temple. So I asked why they put Guangong online, and they answered that being a deity, he transcends time and space. His benevolence and care could reach out to his followers at any time and in every corner. They consider, however, that their temple was the starting point from where Guangong was blessing everybody. Their explanation of QR deity coding corrected most of the limitation incurred by current e-religious services. The online Wumiao temple, which the QR code leads to, is not a completely new reality created out of nothing. It is rather a duplication of the traditional temple, empowered with the possibility of transcending the confines of time and space. The deities worshipped and mediating services remain the same. The managerial body is the same, with the addition of a personnel catering to the extended part of the temple, monitoring and keeping track of the online activities of the temple. In a nutshell, the online Yanshui temple is a continuous extension in time and space of the traditional temple. With such an organization, they would not suffer the problem of certification I mentioned earlier. I saw in this case an example of the successful usage traditional religion communities can make of digital technology. It has made Wumiao a temple here and there, catering to the needs of people in and off the confines of the Wumiao temple. So coming to a kind of a conclusion, and I would say that actually there are other temples around that have been trying not to copy the model of Wumiao. We have, for instance, Bawangong in Taipei, Zhenangong. They've been trying, but Bawangong uses QR codes mostly to publicize the activities of the temple, whereas Zhenangong has similar plan, but they have not been successful because sometimes because of technological deficiency, the code is not readable, a fact which interpreted from a religious perspective can bear grave consequences. So as I conclude, I will simply say that the 7th Roundtable encouraged me to be curious about what technology, the mixing between technology and traditional religion, and the present essay has been trying not to give a commented review of what I observed. Religions are continuously communicating, and they need media to reach out to their followers. They help them connect with the ultimate, with natural realms, with their fellows. And Taiwanese religious landscapes have developed their own media, and the present reflection has pondered on their latest effort to domesticate and to use digital technology. The explosion of internet brought along the creation of online temples, which provided online e-religious services. To the present, QR coding deities and temples seems to be the trend which will enable more contextualized accommodation of online and digital technology of local religions. QR coding deities is a cutting-edge usage of the digital technology that corrects and supplements the deficiencies of earlier online religious services in Taiwan. It ensures continuity with the past by setting traditional practices in the ever open space of the web. Thank you very much.